From Season 3, Episode 4.
The episode starts with Tabitha and the ambulance EMTs, and the police officer looking at the fallen tree using the radio trying to call for help with getting the tree moved. Tabitha gets out and is looking at the murder of crows that everyone sees before they are transported to the town. The police officer suggests they should take a detour, and Tabitha tells them, it's not going to work. Back at the town, we see Ethan sitting at the kitchen table when the phone rings and it's the voice of someone claiming to be Thomas, sounding a lot younger this time, telling Ethan that mom was in trouble, and he will need to help her when she shows back up in the ambulance. Jim walks in and asks who he is talking to and takes the phone from Ethan, and tells the voice on the phone to leave his children alone. The voice then tells him in an ominous tone, they are not your children anymore. We then move over to the colony house where everyone is looking at the dead bird mess from the crash into the room at the end of the last episode. Elgin looks upset and Donna asks him if he was okay, to which he replies, yeah, I'm good. Fatima is getting seen again by Marielle to see if her and the baby are okay. They talk about their concern for their friends Ellis and Christy. Marielle comments about how Fatima is looking better, and she states that she finally found some food she can keep down, but of course doesn't go as far as telling her that it was all rotten food. In another room, Victor is talking to Sarah. He is remembering about how him and his sister would play in the houses in the daytime, and Sarah wants to know what Victor wants to do, and he says he has to remember, because too many things are changing, so he needs to try and remember. We then switch back to the ambulance, and nighttime is approaching and they are driving up the road. Tabitha tries to warn them not to stop or go back, just to keep driving until they reach the town, but they don't believe her. We then go back to the bus with Boyd and Randall, and they talk about the merits of the idea of observing the monsters. Randall talks about the cicada incident, and he comes the closest to actually explaining what he saw than anyone in this series so far, but he still doesn't say enough. We then switch to Kenny and Christy having a somber moment with Kenny saying some caring words about his mother, and Christy reminding him he is not alone. This is because Kenny feels everything he is fighting for is gone, and everyone he was going home for is gone. We switch back to Victor, and he's explaining to Sarah about the day everyone died and he hid in the root cellar, and told her that when he came out, there were bodies everywhere. And that was the first day he saw the boy in white. I thought it was interesting he only saw him after everyone else was dead. The boy in white told him to gather the things precious to the people who passed, and to bury those things to remember them by, since he was young, and could not bury all those people himself. He confides to Sarah that he is scared. We go back to the bus, and Randall explains the monsters all have patterns that are routine when they come out at night, but for some reason, they are not following this night. I can't help but think this is a conversation that could have been had earlier in the day, let alone episodes ago in the season. We then switch back to the ambulance, and they arrive in the town, and now at night. The driver and the cops see a body in the road, and we know it's obviously a trap, but unaware of the danger, the two paramedics go out to see if they can help the person laying in the road. Tabitha warns them not to do it, and that they will die, but they don't listen, and Tabitha gets frantic, and this makes the cop handcuff Tabitha and step out to see what is going on. The two paramedics get dispatched quickly, see what I did there, and the police officer starts shooting at the monster to no effect. The gunshots from the police officer gets Boyd's and Jim's attention, and the police officer runs away from the scene away from the monsters while Henry and Tabitha are still in the ambulance, as Tabitha had been handcuffed inside by the police officer. Jim runs out to the ambulance to see Tabitha handcuffed, and Boyd and Randall show up to help. Boyd does not have his handcuff keys, so Randall offers to get tools he has on the bus to help, so he runs off to get them. At the colony house, they see the police officer running and trying to defend herself against the monsters, but the bullets are not effective. A stray shot hits one of the people looking out the window at the commotion. The officer bangs on the door asking for help. After a very brief pause, they decide to let her in. We switch back to Randall on the bus, getting tools to help Tabitha get out of the handcuffs. He gets off the bus and is then surrounded by the monsters and then throws the tools to Boyd and tries to run back to the bus, but as he runs back, he is overwhelmed by cicadas, and Randall is left at their mercy because one of the monsters offers Boyd the keys to the ambulance in exchange for leaving Randall. The monster says the iconic line we hear in the trailer, "You can't save them all." Boyd snatches the keys and leaves Randall and gets Tabitha, Victor's dad, and Jim to the colony house. We switch to Elgin and the old lady Tilly talking about Fatima and the bird incident, and Elgin sees the drowned woman in the kimono and he is not sure if he is dreaming. He follows her down the hall where she turns to him and asks him to help her. To help her, please. Switch back to Jade, Kenny, and Christy, and Jade is explaining the hallucinations about the one-eyed man, and he finally explains he has been having visions this whole time. So finally they all start talking a little to each other. This was a long time coming, but Jade is starting to doubt that he is smart enough to figure this place out. We then switch back to Sarah and Victor, and are shown a flashback of a young Victor pulling items from each of the bodies from the massacre to bury them in remembrance like the boy in white said. During these flashbacks and recollections, he remembers that something is missing. He starts to get upset remembering the creepy doll, and that it is missing from his collection. The doll's name is Jasper, and it actually talks on his own. Back at the colony house, Boyd is having a small breakdown talking with Donna about how he left Randall, and then we switch to Tabitha and Jim talking about being back in the real world and finding Victor's dad. Tabitha thinks she was sent there on purpose to find something, but then failed. Boyd has a breakdown, but is stopped by Donna. And then when they are alone, Donna has a breakdown herself, wondering why all of this is happening. Victor remembers about Jasper, a ventriloquist dummy, and said that Jasper belonged to Christopher, the same guy that saw the symbols in the book that Jade saw, and remarks about how Christopher started spending more and more time alone with the dummy, and Victor walks in on them talking and arguing. He remarks that Jasper is the one who can tell them why this is happening. The episode wraps up with two important scenes, one of Fatima sitting with the girl who died from the gunshot wound and seeing the blood, and deciding to stick her fingers inside the body and taste the blood. And the other scene is Boyd and Donna hearing a noise and looking out to Randall spread out on the roof of the ambulance in a bad state and seemingly coming back to life. And then we fade to credits. So that was it. An exciting episode. And I can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next time.